Okay, Yasi, you want to take it away and go ahead and get started?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us at this virtual meeting tonight. My name is Yasmin Ismaili, and I am the project manager for Old Columbia Pike Prosperity Drive Improvement Project. Before we start the presentation, Ms. Lori, who is moderating the Zoom meeting tonight, will go over some basic controls and rules to help you use the Zoom format. Also, at the end of this presentation, there will be a question and answer session where we can address your questions and comments that you may have. Now I'm going to turn it over to Lori. Lori?
Hello, everyone. We're going to go over some of the basic controls to help you use the Zoom meeting format before we start tonight's presentation. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. The video will be posted on the project website tomorrow. If you do not wish to have your voice or likeness recorded, please keep your camera off and refrain from asking questions using the video option. Instead, you can enter your questions via the chat. Everyone has been muted this evening. You cannot unmute yourself. We can unmute you during the question and answer session. To request to speak, you will need to use the raise hand feature. Once we unmute you, you may still need to click a pop-up menu to unmute yourself. If you have called in by phone this evening, you can unmute yourself by dialing *6 once we unmute you. Your video camera is off by default this evening. To ensure adequate bandwidth for this meeting, we request that you please keep your video camera off during the meeting. Okay, so again, everyone is on mute. We can unmute you once the question and answer session begins. To raise your hand, you're going to click on the reactions icon and then click raise hand. If you have called in using your phone, you will dial *9 to unmute yourself, or to raise your hand, actually. To change your view so that you can only see people with cameras on, click the up arrow next to Start Video, select Video Settings, make sure Hide Non-Video Participants is checked. And now I'm going to give it over to Dan Sheridan, who is, or Ching, are you doing it now? Or Dan?
I can hear you. May have lost Lori. Nope, I think you're back.
So I think my video is on. Can people see me as well? My name is Dan Sheridan, and I'm with Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and I am in the Division of Transportation Engineering, and I'm the Planning and Design Section Chief. And we've already met Yasi Ismaili. She's the project manager for MCDOT, and I want to thank Lori Main for being the hostess tonight. Also with me on the design team from Whitman Reckart and Associates, they're the design consultants, are Mark Roberts and Ching T. Also joining us, there may be public officials. I believe Wes Darden from Council Member Kristen Mink's office is in attendance, and Kristen Mink is the council member for District 5, which this project resides in. If anybody, any other elected officials would like to be identified, please raise your hand and let Lori know that you're here, and we can introduce you as well. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Again, we are doing the first public meeting for the improvements for Old Columbia Pike / Prosperity Drive. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to briefly touch on the life of a NCDOT transportation project. We are currently in what we call facility planning phase 1. And again, this is the kickoff of the project where we collect data, and most importantly, we get input from our shareholders, including the public. So this may be the first time for everybody learning about this project. So we're going to show you some of the concepts we started to develop and tonight, and then we're also within the process. We will have another public meeting in facility planning phase 1, and ultimately we look to get an approval for a selected alternative at the end of the phase 1. Following that, we'll do facility planning phase 2, which basically facility planning phase 1 gets us to about what we consider a 15% design or a concept design, and then we'll jump into facility planning phase 2 immediately after that, which takes us to the 35% design. At that point, we'll have a really good cost estimate and alternative selected, and that way we can put it in as a standalone project to go to final design and construction, which is number 3 here. Now that is not currently funded, but that's the objective of our facility planning phase 1 and phase 2 is to get a good concept and alternative identified, and then develop the cost estimates. So thanks a lot for joining us tonight, and I will pass it on to, I believe it's Yasi.
Yes, it is. So we will present the following outline tonight, which includes project limits, project overview, purpose and need, and we will present conceptual design for the following 3 alternatives. Alternative 1 is no build, no improvement to the old Columbia Pike and Prosperity Drive. Alternative 2 is improving intersections within the project limits, as well as adding sidewalk and side path along the road. Alternative 3 is intersection improvement, adding the new sidewalk and side path, and opening the existing bridge to traffic. Then we will talk about the project schedule, and lastly, we will finish with the question and answer session. Next slide, please. Vicinity map. In this slide, the highlighted in the yellow shows Old Columbia Pike Prosperity Drive. The southern limit of the project starts from the intersection of the Stewart Lane and Old Columbia Pike, and the northern limit of the project intersect with Cherry Hill Road. The highlighted in the blue is the existing arch bridge over the Paint Branch. We will discuss more about the bridge later in the presentation. Project overview background. Old Columbia Pike Prosperity Drive is about 1.8 miles long. The road from Stewart Lane to Tech Road is called Old Columbia Pike, and from Tech Road to Cherry Hill Road is called Prosperity Drive. There is an existing bridge over the Paint Branch. There are 4 major intersections within the limit of the project. Beginning at the southern limit of the project and traveling north, these intersections are Stewart Lane, Industrial Parkway, Tech Road, and Cherry Hill Road. This project is being closely coordinated with SHA Current Intersection Improvement Project at US 29 and Stewart Lane, and it has been included in 2 master plans: the 2017 Fairland Master Plan and 2014 White Oak Science Gateway Master Plan. Turning it over to Mark.
Okay, thanks, Yazzie. I'm Mark Roberts, as we heard before. So next up, project purpose. So during facility planning phase 1, one really important item that we develop is what is the project's purpose. We can see a lot of items here. The two key ones that we've identified are connectivity and safety along the corridor. Connectivity, because as you know, the bridge over Paint Branch is only open to pedestrians and bicyclists. So as we heard earlier, and we'll see more of later, one of the options would be to reopen that to vehicular traffic. But even regardless of that, better connectivity for pedestrians and bicyclists is a big part of this study. Safety is another aspect. Some of the intersections, for instance, Industrial Parkway and Tech Road, are quite in close proximity to US 29. So we're definitely looking at safety concerns at those locations and elsewhere on the corridor. And then you can see the other items here. We've talked about installing a side path, addressing drainage issues within the project limits, looking at existing traffic patterns, operations, and geometric deficiencies. And, we're also looking to enhance safety for pedestrians and bicyclists in keeping with the Montgomery County Vision Zero Action Plan, which is a goal, a plan to bring fatalities and injuries from vehicular, pedestrian, bicyclists to zero. And it's also, the project will promote equity and accessibility by providing continuous facilities to provide a safe environment for pedestrians and bicyclists and all users. Next slide. A key aspect of this job is the existing bridge over Paint Branch. It's 200 feet long and 27 feet wide. It was actually built back in 1912, widened in 1930, and rehabilitated in 1973. It's actually registered on the Maryland Historic Trust and is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. As you know, it's only open to pedestrians and bicyclists at this time. As part of this study, the county is analyzing the condition of this existing structure. Potential improvements for the structure itself would be to rehabilitate it, but keep it as pedestrian and bicycle use only, to rehabilitate the bridge and open it to vehicular traffic while still having pedestrian and bicycle traffic, or to replace the bridge, or to widen the existing bridge. So those are some of the alternatives that we are looking at. So next up, Ching will be talking about the concepts for the project.
So the first alternative is the no-build option. There won't be any improvements along Old Pike and Prosperity Drive. There will only be safety and maintenance work on the bridge. The bridge will remain closed to vehicle traffic and will remain open to pedestrian and bicyclists. There will be coordination with SHA on the Stewart Lane intersection improvement project. Alternative 2, which is to improve intersections along the corridor and add sidewalk and side paths as well. Old Pike and Prosperity Drive will remain a two-way, one lane in each direction traffic pattern, and we'll install pedestrian bicyclist improvements, improve intersections. The bridge will remain closed to vehicle traffic, but remain open to pedestrian bicyclists. And so what are the proposed pedestrian bicyclist and intersection improvements? The proposed, so as you can see here, the proposed width that you see for the sidewalk and side path are compliant with the Montgomery County Complete Streets Guideline. For the sidewalk, it'll be a minimum 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk with 5 to 6 foot wide grass buffer. As for side path, it's going to be a 10-foot wide side path with 5 to 6 feet wide grass buffer. The side path will be shared between bicyclists, pedestrian, and personal electric vehicles, such as e-scooter. As for intersection improvements, we're looking to upgrade it to be ADA compliant. So you have ADA compliant pedestrian crosswalks, curb ramps, at all driveways and intersections, and also looking to geometry improvements to address some of the existing safety concerns and improve traffic operations. These two pictures here, this is a recently completed intersection project. You can see there's crosswalk markings, there's ADA compliant sidewalk, curb ramps, and bike lanes. And on the bottom here, there's a typical section, an example of the typical section with a 2-lane, 2-way road with sidewalk with buffer and also side path with buffer. So from Stewart Lane to Industrial Parkway, it will be designed according to a neighborhood connector. What is a neighborhood connector? It is a residential through street. It is an important connection for motor vehicles, but also have a strong need to accommodate and encourage pedestrian and bicycle activity. These streets often have bus stops and are key routes in the transit network. The target speed will be 25 mile an hour. The lane width will be 10.5 feet wide for outside travel lane and 10 feet wide inside through left turn lane and 6 feet wide sidewalk with 10 feet wide side path. This is an example of what it may look like. From Industrial Parkway all the way to Cherry Hill Road, it'll be a town center street. Town center streets are located in areas that have planned to have small and medium-sized businesses, restaurants, civic buildings, or residents. These streets have significant pedestrian and bicycle activity and typical offer on-street parallel parking. The target speed will be 25 miles an hour. It's the lane width is 11 feet wide outside travel lane and then 10 feet wide inside through and left turn lane. You'll have 10 feet wide sidewalk and 10 feet wide side path. This is an example shown in the picture is an example of a town center street. So this is the alternative two concept that we developed, starting from Stewart Lane, showing from Stewart Lane to Treetop View Terrace. Parking will be provided on the east side of Oakland Pike with curb ramp, curb bump out proposed. That will help with safety because it'll discourage people parking too close to the driveway and intersections. As you can see here, it shows the concept from the project that SHA is currently developing. It's under concept design right now, which is in another project itself. So Oakland Pike will be maintained 2-lane, 2-way, and side path will be on the east side as shown in the typical section and on the plan view. Continuing here, there's still be sidewalk on the west side. We didn't have sidewalk previously because it was too close to the US 29. And then the side path will be on the east side. And then the side path will run continuously from Stewart Lane all the way to Cherry Hill Road. As you can see here, parking will be provided on the east side with curb bump outs as provided as well. And then Oakland Pike for vehicles will terminate at the Carriage House Drive, just south of the bridge, and then there'll be sidewalk connection and side path that will continue on going north. As you can see in typical section, there's going to be 6 feet wide sidewalk with 6 feet wide buffer, and then there's going to be 10.5 feet lanes, northbound and southbound, and then there'll be a 8 foot wide parking lane, and then a 5 foot wide buffer and a 10 feet wide side path. Continuing through the existing bridge, the bridge, as previously discussed, will only be open to pedestrian and bicyclists to cross over the bridge, and then continue to use the existing pavement that's out there, and we can delineate it with pavement marking for sidewalk and side path, as you can see on the typical section here. And you will continue going north at the last entrance, beginning at Oakland Pike, going north. From here, from the last entrance here to Industrial Parkway, Old Colonial Pike will mostly remain like in existing condition, two-lane, two-way. We have limited width on the west side because of the close proximity to US 29. So the side path will be provided on the east side and no sidewalk will be provided on the west side. As you can see on typical section, Old Colonial Pike will remain a two-lane, two-way with 10.5-foot lanes. When there is no parking, the buffer will be 6 feet wide and followed by a 10-foot wide side path. There's a existing Stonehenge park here, which is currently, there's a study looking to improve it. But right now we are tying into the existing side path that's there right now. But as the project progresses, it'll be coordinated with that park improvements as well. Here you can see it's showing from industrial parkway intersection to Tech Road intersection. Here we're proposing to do a road diet to reduce. Right now there's a very wide width of roadway pavement out there that's not necessary given the traffic volume. So we're proposing to reduce part of it, reduce the lane width for traffic calming purposes and make it safer for pedestrians. There's a, as you may have been aware, the White Oak Town Center project is under construction right now. Our project will be coordinated with the constructed Town Center project to try to use what they have built out there. And as you can see on the typical section, generally there'll be a 1 lane in each direction with 11-foot wide lanes and a 8 feet buffer and 10 feet wide side path here. Continuing from Tech Road to Cherry Hill Road, here you're getting more businesses, commercial buildings, some medical offices, car dealerships. Parking will be provided on the east side, only up to Prosperity Terrace, where the parking lane will no longer be available, and it'll be a 2-lane through lanes heading towards Cherry Hill Road. The 10 feet wide side path will continue on the east side all the way to Cherry Hill Road. And from here, there'll be a 10-foot wide concrete sidewalk on the west side, going all the way from Tech Road to Cherry Hill Road. And then there's a 10-foot wide center turn left turn bay. For alternative 3, it's basically alternative 2 with the bridge that will be open to vehicle traffic. So Old Colonial Pike and Prosperity Drive will still be maintained in a 2-lane, 1 lane in each direction traffic pattern. We will look into improved intersections as discussed in alternative 2, install pedestrian bicyclist improvements, and then bridge will open to 1 lane in each direction for vehicle traffic. As you can see here, in this alternative, the sidewalk and side path will continue through the new bridge. This is the bridge proposed typical section with 2 lane of vehicle travelway and 6 feet of buffer, and one side is a 6 foot wide sidewalk and the other side is a 10 feet wide side path. And the existing pavement between the north edge of the bridge to the existing south end of the Old Colonial Pike here, it will be widened to accommodate the sidewalk and side path to maintain a continuous connection. But the sidewalk will terminate just south of the entrance here because of we're getting close to US 29. Now I'm going to turn it over to Yasmin to talk about project schedule.
Yes, this slide shows the project schedule. The start in this slide indicate where we are with respect to the project schedule. The project started in January 2022. Concept plan were developed by April of 2022. The first public meeting is being presented tonight, March 2023. And following tonight's meeting, a public meeting will be held in the summer of 2023, after which the project will be completed by fall 2023. In the winter of 2023, the project will be presented to the County Council and TNE Committee to obtain approval. Next slide, please. This is the end of our presentation. Please feel free to contact me if you have any question or need any additional information. My phone number and mailing address are shown on this slide. You can also go to our project website to view plans and current status of the project. Next slide, please. Now we will have a question and answer session. Lori, do we have any questions?
Before we move on to questions, I just want to mention in the meeting chat, we've included the project website that you can click on and you can provide comments to there. And then there's also a link to the Vision Zero plan and the Montgomery County Complete Streets Guide. So those are all there on the chat. You can click on those links. Thanks.
Okay, we have a number of people signed up to provide comments. First up is Daniel Wilhelm.
Good evening. Several comments on the LATIP, Local Area Transportation Improvement Program. We're going to need, I think it calls for more exit ramps, exit lanes coming from 29 on Tech Road and Industrial, and you need to provide at least 2 lanes in each direction on those roads and the traffic coming in. And particularly assuming Viva White Oak gets going, there's going to be a lot of traffic coming in on those that way. The other thing is long-term, the master plan calls for 4 lanes on the road you're studying up to. So does what you're doing allow for 4 lanes in the future?
So there could be a 4-lane option too on the bridge, or we could allow for. It depends on what the information we get back from the corings and things like that. What we've had from the bridge, whether it'll be able to be modified to take traffic, or will have to be a new bridge. And so during once that information is known, then we can better scope that part of the information.
Well, the plan is more than just the bridge. It's the whole length of the road from Cherry Hill to Stewart. So the bridge would be part of it, but includes the rest of it as well.
Yes, and we're also looking at that in conjunction with the Complete Street Design Guides, which does have different classifications for the various portions. As Ching went over, the neighborhood connector is a 2-lane road, and a town center can be a wider road. So all those factors can be considered throughout the design. And then I think you also mentioned something about coordination with exit lanes coming off of US 29. And that's a big part of what's going to happen at the intersection of Tech Road and Industrial Parkway.
Yeah, because we need coming south, and we need 2 left turn lanes coming in on both those. Right now, Tech Road doesn't allow 2 lanes coming in, or it allows 1. Then it opens up as soon as you get past Old Columbia to 2 lanes. And then probably the same thing going north. You need to probably handle 2 lanes coming off at 29 going into both those roads, because the amount of traffic is going to be substantially higher.
So that's all those things that will have to be taken into consideration. So those are great points. So thank you for bringing them up.
Okay, next we have, next up to comment is Rachel Evans. Rachel, can you unmute yourself?
Sure. So in terms of the bridge that goes over Paint Branch, is that reinforced for cars today, or is that something that needs to be done in the planning?
So initially it was a road bridge, but it's quite old and it's been
Mhm.
closed to traffic. So we've done some corings to try to find out how the bridge is constructed to see what would need to be done to reopen it to traffic loads. If that's possible. And then if that's not, what would be the options for if it had to be reconstructed or partially reconstructed? So
Okay, so
those,
that hasn't been done yet as part of the project to determine if it can handle cars?
well, I think in the past month or two, we've done some what are called corings. So I don't believe there's any existing plans for that bridge. So we don't know exactly how it's constructed. So what we've done is gone in and done some corings to see to determine the strength of the concrete of the bridge and also like where the reinforcing is in the existing bridge. And from that, once we get that information known, we can do calculations on how it can be addressed to reopen it to traffic, whether it be 2 lanes or 4 lanes.
Okay, and will that
Does
be,
does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense, but will that be done in time for the project completion the dates you just gave?
I don't know. Can somebody from WRA give a time frame on the bridge analysis and
Dan, this is Jim Gither. Yes, the overall view of the area is going to be done by this afternoon's or by this summer's public meeting is the intent.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
thanks. I'd like to introduce Jim is also a member of the WRA team and a structural engineer with lots of experience in Montgomery County. So thanks for
Great.
joining us, Jim.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll hear from Charlene Douglas Flynn. Charlene Douglas Flynn, can you unmute yourself? Okay, we'll circle back.
Okay, sorry
Oh,
about that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at option number 2, which is foot traffic and bicycles. And I'm definitely opposed to opening the bridge to motor vehicle traffic. We live in a small community. We have difficulty as it is exiting where we live with the motor vehicle bureau there and the emissions. And with the new center coming, we're going to have tons more traffic. I don't believe our community would support opening the bridge for vehicle traffic. So I just wanted to mention.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up, we'll hear from Michelle Millard. Michelle Millard, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay. We can circle back to Michelle. How about John Obie?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay, thanks. I echo the last person's views about the bridge. We have over the years expressed our views about opening that bridge. We are definitely opposed to that option 3. I have a question about the trees. We have trees from the bridge to up to Industrial Parkway. What is the plan for those trees? We don't want those trees touched. I'm sorry. Any plans for those trees on the west side of Old Columbia Pike?
I think we'll do our best, depending on which option we move forward with. We will definitely try to minimize the impact to existing forested area. And, we have, forest conservative conservation process that we have to go through, but we'll definitely, be mindful of that.
John, did you have any other questions or comments?
That's all I have for now. Our community is concerned about traffic in the area, but I guess you all have plans for mitigation of the traffic.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we'll hear from Michael Jackson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Hi, I've put a number of questions and comments into the chat, but I'll just simply say that I want to, again, list I guess I'd like to support my fellow residents and be against opening up Pike Branch, the bridge to motor vehicle traffic. And I do have one question. Will there be lighting installed on the bridge?
Hasn't been discussed yet, and we can take that back and have that discussion as we look at the remainder of the improvements throughout the corridor. But we will take that back as we are looking at the remainder of the requirements for the entire project.
Well, thank you, and put me down for a yes for lighting.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty.
I'll step in just to say, this is Dan Sheridan from MCDOT, just to say that we typically try to light any new pedestrian facility. There may be complications, as Jim was alluding to, on the bridge, but leading to the bridge, we typically would add pedestrian level lighting along any new pedestrian path such as this.
Also, isn't that bridge owned by the State Highway Administration?
Interesting questions. So yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So that, any improvements or that will have to be coordinated with SHA.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll hear from Karen Green. Karen, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I just have a couple of comments. Well, I have a question as well. When we're looking at crime percentages on the opposite side of the bridge, my concern is how is this going to affect our neighborhood over here in Stonehenge? The second thing, I agree with the other callers. We do not need any additional traffic. And even just thinking about school buses and kids getting off the bus, I think that is a safety concern.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll hear from Hedayatullah Mutmain. Hedayatullah. Okay, how about Peter Radway? Peter Radway.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I too echo everyone's comment about not opening the bridge to vehicular traffic. As everyone has said earlier too, yeah, it's pretty small in that area of the street, and adding cars to it, it'll be just a cut through for everyone that's on 29 trying to avoid the traffic on 29 and coming into our neighborhood. And, you know, we have a lot of young kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So I'm against the bridge being open to vehicular traffic. I don't mind the bike lanes and, you know, the pedestrian walkways and stuff like that, but definitely against any cars coming across that bridge and so close to our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Joan Johnson.
Hi, I also would echo that option number 2 is by far the optimal one. I know at one point Viva White Oak was supposed to have a very small percentage of single occupancy vehicle traffic and have a lot of alternative, you know, bicycle and pedestrian traffic. And the only way to get that in is to have safe connectivity from the surrounding areas. And this stretch, as it is now, is really the only safe way to get in at all. And it's going to get a lot more dangerous in front of places like Amazon Fresh if changes aren't made before traffic picks up in those areas. The equity issues are huge. There's a huge number of apartments on the other side of Paint Branch where people might like to go shopping there and connect with Cherry Hill. And having that connectivity is massive. And it really, there again, for a biker, there is no other alternative. If you want to drive, you can hang out on US 29. And I'd just like to say thank you for whoever proposed option number 2. And also suggest that things like no right on red coming out of tech and industrial be put in place so that we don't kill bikers. And that's it.
Thank you, Joan. Okay, next we'll hear from Catherine Mackel.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I like option 2. I like opening up the area from, you know, Stewart Lane all the way to Tech Road, leaving the, you know, bridge and leaving the bridge intact. My only concern would be, like others said, would be the lighting, because lighting tends to be bad, and that whole town center proposal with cars parked along the street. I mean, there's so much crime in this area with, you know, between here and Tech Road that that would really be a concern.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll hear from Ulysses Medina. Ulysses?
Hi, I'm sorry. I just joined. I missed the first part, so I really can't add to it. I don't really have a question now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Giroux Bande? Giroux? I don't think he is here yet. Okay. How about David Bickle? David Bickle. Okay, that is the end of my list. So we're going to go to raised hands now. First, we'll hear from Mary Gabay.
Hello.
Hello.
I appreciate the opportunity to give my opinion here. I live in the area. I've been here 30 years and the bridge has been closed that entire time. And as I think about the 2 things that you want to achieve here, connectivity and safety, I think I don't see a connectivity advantage to the neighborhood at all from opening that bridge, but I do see lots of safety issues. Particularly given the number of kids in the apartment buildings, the playground that's right there. You know, people who live in this area know that people are walking to and from their cars, know to look out for kids. They'll drive carefully. People who are just driving through to get a little advantage away from the traffic on Old Columbia Pike, you know, they won't know, and they won't, and it could be, I think, a huge safety issue. So while I appreciate the idea of making this corridor here better, expanding it, making it wider for more safe for people to bike and walk along it. I truly do not like the idea of opening the bridge. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Giroux Bande.
No, I don't.
Come in.
No, I have no question.
Okay,
I do raise my hand. Sorry.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie Davis Ism.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So my husband and I have lived here on Old Columbia Pike since 2004. And I have been speaking up in support of keeping the bridge closed since 2014, when there was discussion about trying to open it up at that time. And there were county officials that came to one of our condo meetings here at the Old Columbia Towers, and they were trying to guarantee that, you know, people coming off of 29 would not cheat, you know, and use our road to get over, you know, to another location, you know, quickly. But there's just no way. I mean, last night I saw somebody cut through a gas station at the corner of Randolph and New Hampshire. People are going to try and cut through as much as possible to get home faster. So I would like to keep the bridge closed, fix it up, leave it for pedestrians, bicyclists, and leave it as a natural green spot. I mean, Montgomery County prides itself on you know, being at the forefront of, you know, of improving our environment, you know, and I think it's just so important to, you know, just to leave it as is, fix it up, and, you know, improve it for our neighborhood, and let 29 carry a majority of the traffic. To have buses and traffic going up and down our street would, it's already, as somebody said earlier, it's already hectic enough as it is with the construction going on, that we need some peace and quiet. This is why we chose to live in this area, and we'd like to keep the bridge closed to car traffic. So I've been fighting it since 2014, and I will continue doing so. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, next, Peggy Brown.
Hi, can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, so first of all, thank you very much. It sounds like a very exciting plan. The question is really about, for those of us who live, say southbound, which was essentially that area between the bridge, right, and an industrial parkway. So with the construction, it's become very difficult to get out of that stretch of Old Columbia Pike to make a left turn onto Columbia Pike to go either north or southbound on it, because you no longer can go, say, you know, straight ahead and make a left turn. So now what people are doing, which is not a safe traffic pattern here. So you have the two right lanes coming onto Industrial Parkway from 29. You have the residents sitting at that stop sign trying to get out. And that's become very difficult. But then once we come out and make the right turn, it appears, and this is why I'm asking the question, it appears your traffic pattern is making us go down Industrial Parkway make a left turn to then make another left turn to get out on Tech Road, just so you can make another left turn to go southbound. Right. On Columbia Pike. So my question is, because I might have missed it, so that's why I'm asking the question. I don't understand, how is it making it easier for those of us on this particular stretch to access 29? And I think with the traffic that's already coming in from 29 northbound, 2 right lanes, and then you're gonna open up this town center, how are we supposed to get out of our neighborhood? So that's my question. I really want to know, I want to hear a little bit more about the traffic flow and the pattern for those of us who live in this neighborhood and now need to get out of it.
Thank you, Peggy Brown. This is Dan Sheridan, and your audio is a little bit garbled, but I think I'm going to try to repeat your question, which was, currently it seems to be very a challenge for people that live between the bridge and Industrial Parkway to get out of the neighborhood onto US 29 or Columbia Pike. And what has been shown as an option, I think you said you would go on, you would make some turns on Industrial Parkway to get to Tech Road, and then get, make a left to go southbound on US 29. So that's an option that I believe, if WRA wants to jump in and talk about some of the traffic patterns that they've noticed. But in general, you're correct. That is quite the challenge. That's the big challenge between with this project, is the amount of traffic that is coming off of 29 and then how it coincides with the traffic that's on Old Columbia Pike / Prosperity Drive. But I don't know if WRA wants to take a stab at some of the options they've looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to that. When we understand there's some traffic operation issues there, like you discussed, because of the Industrial Parkway and Old Columbia Pike intersection is very close with the US 29 and Industrial Parkway intersection. When you have these two intersections so close to each other, there's going to be some challenges for traffic operation. So part of alternative is to take a deeper look at this intersection and see how we can improve on it. We'll do traffic analysis and look into different options on how we can, optimize, and improve safety of that intersection and make it better.
Okay, because it sounds like you might have to resynchronize the lights or something. Because again, trying to get out just now with the construction is making it very difficult, and people are now making U-turns. So right in front of the Progressive building. So you make a right turn at the stop sign, and then people turn around and make a U-turn. Wait for the traffic. While you have right turn traffic coming in off of 29. So it's really become a safety issue now. So that's the comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the comment. We did a field observation, and we do recognize of all the problems that you have described, and part of our effort is to look into try to resolve that. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll hear from Corinne.
Yes, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've lived in the Stonehenge community for close to 40 years. My first question is, what would the purpose of opening up the old bridge if this project is supposed to be about safety and pedestrian accommodation? I think the last thing you want to do with those goals is to open up the bridge. I strongly support what all the other residents have already said. We do not need this bridge to be open. The traffic on 29 has been there for years, and we don't need to absorb any of that problem. So I strongly support not to open that bridge. The second thing I want to comment about is the island at Industrial, where we have to basically make a right-hand turn, make a U-turn to get onto 29. That intersection needs to be addressed and improved before any other building is done. I mean, that is a problem right now. And the sign that says stop here on red makes it even worse. If anybody's looked at that sign in intersection, it doesn't work. And with all the construction, it's a nightmare to get out onto 29. At one time, they talked about putting an overpass bridge from 29 onto Industrial. I'm just wondering if there's any other thoughts, but you really need to correct that intersection before you do anything else, because it's already a nightmare for the communities that live just south of Industrial. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Corinne. Okay, I guess we will hear from Mike Larkin. Mike, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
I apologize. So I really wanted to express strong support for option 2, especially, and also the keeping the bridge just for pedestrians and bicyclists. And the primary reason I want to put forward, this project is happening within the BRT corridor. And I think it's important to view this project in the larger context of it's going to be serving a lot of different people within the neighborhood and also outside the direct neighborhood. I don't necessarily live in the neighborhood, but I access the neighborhood a lot. And I'm a hardy walker, but I think for a lot of people who are not veteran walkers or bicyclists, the way it's constructed, things are constructed now, it's intimidating. So this project needs to take into account that overall context and make sure that it's safe for people who are walking, rolling, and riding their bikes, because that takes into account a much larger community context and will work for many different people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next up is Beth.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So I've looked at the website a little bit. This is the first real exposure I've had to this project. And I wanted to just ask some more questions about the context of it. I'm concerned about pedestrian and bike safety. I'm concerned about the existing ability to cross, say, as a pedestrian, industrial and tech roads. And by viewing the presentation tonight, I could understand, okay, here's where, in different segments of this project, where sidewalks would be and where side paths would be. But I didn't really understand how establishing those was going to fix the safety issues in crossing some of those roads. And I also wasn't sure whether the intersections then with 29 were drawn with future configurations, or, if there are things coming with that, for instance, that would be part of a context that you're trying to accommodate. I know, of course, people have talked about the development that's going on. So we have White Oak Town Center, and how is all that traffic going to be handled? And then there's the White Oak Science Plan, as well as just some thoughts in the background. So with all of that going on, I'm not sure how this plan fits in. I'm not sure what the original goals are. I heard one of the speakers one of the commenters reiterate connectivity and safety. And I'm not seeing why opening the bridge is part of that, so I'm trying to understand where that's coming from. I'm trying to understand how the design that is proposed will improve safety. Then it just is a separate question. I just wanted to see whether any of what is planned would encroach on Stonehedge's existing land or lead to the elimination of the existing sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Did one of you want to explain the safety at the crossing?
I can explain. I don't know if you're still looking at the screen. So understanding this is still a work in progress, I just want to point out some proposed features that will improve on pedestrian and bicycle safety. Aside from the dedicated side path that pedestrian and bicyclists can walk and bike on, that's separated from vehicle traffic. And we have like some channelizing island to reduce crossing distance of pedestrian when they cross the street. We have ADA compliant curb, proposing ADA compliant curb ramps for people on wheelchair. They can safely navigate across, and there's appropriate pavement marking to delineate where the crossing are, and also signs where it goes with it. And also, we will, when this project moves forward, we will be compliant with Montgomery County's protected intersection concept, which try to reduce the length that is needed to cross the street for pedestrians. So that means that they are less exposed to traffic when they cross the street. For example, at the intersection here, you have like a stamped concrete surface, which is like a mountable curb, it's like a 3-inch elevator surface where cars turning right can use the tighter radius. But it also allows for, let's say, if a delivery truck, if they needed to cross, turn right, they can, do it as well. But most of the time, when cars drive by, they will use a tighter radius. Therefore, the pedestrian doesn't have to cross all the way from the end of this yellow shape here and all the way to the blue one. Instead, they are safer, to cross from here to here. It's a shorter crossing distance. So some of these features will definitely improve on help on pedestrian and bicyclist safety.
Okay, thank you, Jing. Next, we have Rosalind Hill. Rosalind, we can't hear you. I see that you're unmuted, but. Okay, we will circle back to Rosalind. Let's hear from Jim now. Jim, can you unmute yourself?
Good evening. Definitely automobile traffic, and definitely in favor of option 2. We live right by the bridge.
Accidents. There were so many accidents there, they put those pylons up. And as I understand what you're doing, you want to have a through road at each of those 2 intersections. So I guess part of the question is, how are you going to accommodate that? You're so close to, Old Columbia's so close to US 29, when cars turn in, they have an accident, they run right into the side of somebody else trying to go through the intersection. The distance is so short, it's, basically impossible to not have accidents there. At Tech Road, they are having multiple accidents every day, every workday at that point. So that's a serious problem. I've also suggested, I suggested here, is rather than put the intersection improvements at this point, do a cross the Paint Branch and Viva White Oak over to the White Oak Rec Center and avoid all the problems that you've heard tonight on Old Columbia. So that's what I think is a better solution, and that could be used for pedestrians, bikes, and transit. We need a lot of transit in that area. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for those comments. Again, everyone's correct in that the major traffic challenge for safety at those intersections and their proximity of Industrial Parkway and Tech to the US 29. So that will be worked through our analysis and proposed alternatives. And then as far as your proposed solution of having a traffic connection farther to the east. So we are not looking at that as part of this study. In MCDOT, we are confined by the fact that we can only look at master plans solutions. So if there's an amendment to the master plan, then that could be a potential solution, as you suggested.
I brought that up with Park and Planning and the director of DOT, and they said that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, I actually, thanks for sending your question beforehand. We checked with Director Conklin and like, yeah, it's a very interesting concept. There are many challenges with that concept as well. Again, and we wouldn't be opposed to studying it. We just have to get it in the amendment process.
All right, next we'll hear from Peter. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, I agree with Dan regarding the keeping the bridge closed and leave it for pedestrian use and bicyclist use. I would also suggest when you try to improve the bridge for that purpose, that maybe you might think about somehow building a way down to the stream valley, because I understand Parks is also looking to build a trail under the bridge going up towards possibly up to White Oak. So this would be a good way to access the stream trail. But also I agree with Dan on the other side, which is connecting the two centers. And I'm looking at this 10, 15 years into the future, and it is outside the boundary of the study area. To connect the two activity centers, actually 3 in this case, or 2 in this case, which is the Viva White Oak Town Center to the White Oak area down on Stewart and Lockwood Lane. But having a transit only access point between those two activity centers. But again, this is outside the study area. But I do hope that when you plan these roads, you keep in mind the future use of this road also. So that's basically it. That's my comment. And again, I'm going for option 2.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, that's all the hands that I have. Would anyone else have any questions or comments they would like to add? You can raise your hand by clicking on the reactions icon and then clicking raise hand or dialing *9 from your telephone keypad. We do have a couple more questions. Beth, would you unmute yourself?
Sure, thank you for taking me again. So I know I can speak in many words at once. So to just come back to 2 of the questions I had also posed. So one is, fundamentally, why was alternative 3 ever proposed? What is behind the interest in considering vehicular traffic over it. And then the other question I had was, is this proposal encroaching on the land and the sidewalk already at Stonehenge? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will attempt to answer the question why alternative 3 is even considered. Well, one, it's in the master plan, and just in general, I think the idea is that it's a local network connection, low speed, to provide vehicular connection between the areas, the two different areas, the Vigo White Oak area and the area south of the Pike Branch. That's just in general what the transportation planners are looking at. And then Ming, I don't know if you know the answer, or maybe it's too early to say if there is a direct property impact along the Stonehenge, which is, I believe it's a community that's near on Old Columbia Pike, but south of the Industrial Parkway. I think it's near the park. Is that correct? And so if we know whether there'll be an impact, and if so, how much? And again,
I do not anticipate there's going to be impact to that park itself. At most, we will upgrade the side path. We were to connect the new side path to connect to the existing side path, but there won't be any impact to the park. And the roadway for alternative 2 remains almost the same as what it is there today.
Okay, next we'll hear from Leanne Carnegie.
Hi, I also agree with alternative 2, but I had a question about the project limit intersection at Stewart Lane and US 29. Has there been any studies done to improve safety at that intersection? Because I find that from every direction going left, it's just kind of dangerous even in your vehicle. So I just had a question to know if there was a study done about that intersection itself, especially for cars coming from Old Columbia Pike and, the street on the side with the police station as well, going into Stewart Lane and 29. Thank you.
So I'll answer that by saying State Highway Administration is the owner operator of US 29, and they are looking at a safety improvement at the intersection of Stewart Lane and US 29, Colesville Road. And so we are in coordination with them, but they are the leaders on that portion of it. And our project will be coordinated with them. They will be ahead of us. So, but we had communications with them, and they're communicating their plans, and there is coordination between MCDOT and SHA, but SHA is leading that effort.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Charlene Douglas Flynn. Charlene, you can unmute yourself at the bottom left-hand side of your screen by clicking on the, there you go.
Okay. Okay, thanks. In thinking about exiting Old Columbia Pike onto Industrial Parkway, I'm wondering if there could be a different traffic pattern for people coming up 29 to access the MVA and the emissions. And that means prohibiting them from turning right on an Old Industrial Parkway and instead accessing the Motor Vehicle Bureau by going on, oh my gosh, what's the other intersection clause where all the traffic jams are? On the next intersection after Industrial Parkway.
Tech Road.
The one where all the accidents happen.
Tech Road.
Oh yeah, Tech Road. So if they were to come up 29 and turn right on Tech Road and go around the loop to access the Motor Vehicle Bureau and the emissions, that would cut down on the traffic so that those of us who are trying to exit our homes wouldn't be behind a line of cars that are lined up, usually at the end of the month. So I just thought of that as a possibility, something to consider. And the other thing is perhaps a footbridge. There's one on Veers Mill Road, south of Twin Brick Parkway, where there's a footbridge for pedestrians to use. Perhaps that would be something to consider in terms of the community being safe and trying to get on the other side of the road. Okay, thanks so much for taking my questions.
Thank you, Charlene.
Okay.
Okay, can anybody speak to that?
So I guess we can, looking at the second one first, a pedestrian bridge only, which is, I guess, an alternative to using the existing bridge that could be looked at. And then we will also look at the suggestion of changing the traffic pattern and directing right turns, not allowing right turns on Industrial Parkway to have the attempt to reduce the congestion for cars leaving Industrial Parkway. So thank you for the suggestions.
Thank you. All right, we have Bonnie Davis-Ism.
Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you all so much for holding this forum tonight. I really, really appreciate it. For the meeting and during the summer, will we be notified as well, like we were for this one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and we may also hold that in person just to give a different opportunity. And we may also consider a hybrid where it would be in person and recorded. So look forward to that announcement and whether it might be in person and or a combination of virtual and in person.
Great. Thank you so
for
much.
attending. Thanks everybody for their input. I don't know if there's any hand raised, but there are a couple. I see a couple questions in the chat.
Yeah.
I'll just read them out. I think has DOT looked at the traffic modeling done for the White Oak master plan? WOSG, I think it's White Oak Gateway, I think Science Gateway master plan. And then are there changes to the traffic expectations to 2045 in the Council of Governments round 10? So Ching, I don't know if you can answer the specific traffic questions on what modeling you're using.
So can you repeat the question?
What years? What was that?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So has DOT looked at the traffic modeling done for the White Oak Science Gateway master plan? And are there changes to the traffic expectations in year 2045 to the Council of Governments? So
we did it.
I think in general is what traffic data you're using.
We perform a traffic count in the field based on field observations, and we did traffic modeling to project future traffic. Our traffic report is in progress, but definitely, traffic count and traffic projection is, is being considered.
Okay, great. So I think the takeaway from that is we can look at also this the modeling done for the White Oak Science Gateway master plan. And then a follow-on question was, are you expected to make this a standalone capital improvement project for the next biennial CIP? So the next biennial CIP would be FY25. I don't think we'll have all the information done in order to get it through that, but it could be for, if we don't make that round, we could always do what is called a supplemental. Say we finish in FY26, then we can add it as a supplemental in FY26. And somebody asked, well, I don't see any. And then one somebody said they can't see the chats. Some of them, I think I was reading those questions were directed to me. So I think I've answered all the ones that I can see. And I don't know the general chat. If there's anything else in a general chat that everybody could see. Do you see that, Lori?
Actually, when my internet fuzzed out there for a little bit, it erased the chat from my end. So I only have one question that I can see. And that is in relation to the Stonehenge stone wall. They're wondering if the stone wall has to be removed for the sidewalk installation. Will they put it back? Will it be an expense incurred by the county, or would it be an expense incurred by the association?
So I'll just speak generally to that. I don't know. I don't think we can know at this point whether it will be impacted. Just in general, if the wall is located on Stonehenge property and this project impacts it, then it will be replaced. If the wall is located on what is county right away and it's impacted, then it's more of a question of cost, but it could be replaced at that point. So I think it's too early to say exactly. In general, we try to avoid impacts, but if it's unavoidable, then the right-of-way impact, whether it's in the right-of-way or whether it's on private property, determines how it will be replaced. And then I have one other question. I got on a direct message to me. Will MCDOT be resurfacing the section of Old Columbia from Stewart to the White Oak Shopping Center that soon? It's in terrible shape. I don't know the answer to that, but I can ask my colleagues at Department of Highway Services, and if you email Yasi, she can give you and that's from E. Finnegan. We can get you the answer to that in the next couple of days. I have another chat. If Viva White Oak opens, there will be massive increased traffic on Industrial, as it is only one of only 2 northern access points to that neighborhood, the other being from Cherry Hill Road. Will this traffic also be taken into account? Yes, I mean, we can look at the future development and the traffic count as suggested in the earlier comment. And then it says, I am a Stonehenge resident and oppose opening bridge to traffic. It would become a cut through. Stonehenge has shown in the opening picture with the stone wall, the existing sidewalk does not allow the space to install a side path without moving the road closer to 21. So thank you for that.
Okay, that's all I have, although we did just get an announcement in the chat. The East County Regional Services Office, the Regional CIP Community Forum on April 12th will be held from 7 to 8:30 at the White Oak Community Recreation Center.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie. This is Jeruf, Director of the East County Regional Office. The county is planning 5 regional forums for the county's capital improvement programs. So we normally hold one in East County, and this year's is scheduled for April 12th, 7 to 8:30 at the White Oak Community Rec Center. So it is a good opportunity for the public to come, talk, and really have input on the county's capital improvement programs. So this issue we're talking about, the bridge, is part of that broad plans for the county. So we welcome everyone, and we want to hear people's comments on the CIP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I will introduce after a post introduction, that's Drew Banday, who is the the regional service director for this part of the county. So thank you for attending, Drew.
We thank all the residents really who took time
That's
to
true.
come participate in this process. So we appreciate everyone for their time.
Yes, and you know, this isn't the end. This is really just kind of the beginning. So if you think of other questions or comments throughout the coming months, please contact us. Again, Yasi Ismaili is the project manager. That's probably the best way to get your questions and comments answered. And her information's in. Yep, there we go. Well, without seeing any more questions or comments, I think we can give everybody the rest of their evening back. And again, on behalf of MCDOT, thank you very much for all your comments and questions. Please feel free to reach out to us, look at information on the website, and let us know if you have any additional comments or questions as time goes on.
Hi, this is Michael Jackson. I put up a number of comments in the chat I guess it went to Ching T, but I didn't hear any of them being addressed.
Okay, so if you did them direct to Ching, can you see a chat, or would you like to ask them now or answer them now?
I'm not sure I'm seeing it. Hold on, I may have to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. So, Mr. Jackson, if you would like to, would you like to just read them?
Sure. Let's see.
So I think the difficulty is that because Ching is the one sharing the slideshow, then he can also see the chat.
Okay. Now I can't. Let's see if I can see the chat again. Well, let me go ahead and start from memory. I'm a bicycle pedestrian planner, so and I live in Stonehenge, so this is kind of near and dear to my heart. Considering the grades on Old Columbia Pike, going down toward Paint Branch, I'm not too sure if a shared use path would be great for all. Well, I think you would need to expect some cyclists to use the roadway going down those grades where you can, easily hit 20, 25 miles an hour, rather than the shared use path, which would be too narrow to accommodate such speeds, and you would have conflicts with pedestrians. So I just would like you guys to think about the fact that you do have grades, steep grades on Old Columbia Pike, and perhaps not to expect all cyclists to use the shared use path along there.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you.
I'd like to see if Montgomery County DOT could legalize parking on the west side of Old Columbia Pike by Stonehenge condominiums, where there are parking issues, and people have been parking there despite the no parking signs, and I don't think they've been getting ticketed. So it'd be nice if, along with this project, it could be considered legalizing that parking there.
So we can take that into consideration.
Thank you. I did mention about lighting the Paint Branch bridge overpass. To encourage bicycle commuters, especially during the wintertime when the weather might be mild, but it gets dark early in the evening. Someone may be able to commute in the daylight, but come back during the darkness. So it would deter crime and make people feel more comfortable if there were lights on the bridge.
Yes, that is a valid point. And again, with any new pedestrian bicycle facility, we do try to provide pedestrian level lighting. I think we'll just have to look into closely how that detail would work across the bridge.
That would be great. I'd like you guys to continue the good work that you have been doing with providing destination signing on the bikeways. You've got them along Old Columbia Pike from Burtonsville down to White Oak and coming up the hill. So that's great. Going on to a couple of items that are outside of the scope of this particular project, but I'd just like to throw out if you guys could consider this as well. One, if you could extend shared use paths from the end of Old Columbia Pike at the White Oak Shopping Center, if you could get an easement or something to bring the path around the edge of the shopping center to the northeast corner of Lockwood Drive and New Hampshire Avenue, that would help continue this facility and also, provide some connection to the shopping center for pedestrians. And similarly, along the north side of at Cherry Hill Road, where the project ends, as an existing shared use path that parallels the east side of US 29 for about a quarter of a mile, and it dead ends right by Manor Care Nursing Home. If the county at a future time could look at extending that path along 29 to Fairland Road, that would extend the usefulness of this facility as well.
So thank you for those suggestions. I will say that the county does have another couple CIPs where those can be accomplished. One of them is looking to improve pedestrian bicycle connections along the Flash corridor that is along US 29. So we can take those suggestions back to that group and see if they can be accomplished.
And just finally, I'd just like to thank the team for the presentation and its thoughtfulness in this project. It would be a great addition for the community, just as long as the bridge is not open to motor vehicle traffic. And yeah, those were my comments.
Well, if there's any last everybody for their participation. We really appreciate the community input, and you'll be hearing from us again in a few months for an update. With that, I think we'll say good night to everybody, and thanks a lot, and look forward to continuing working on this project with everyone. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.